themselves, the intertwining of religion and power, and the lasting lessons that we can draw from this dark period. To begin with, Salem in the late 17th century was a small and deeply religious Puritan community. The Puritans who settled in New England saw themselves as a chosen people, building a godly society in the wilderness. Their worldview was shaped by a strict interpretation of the Bible, with a strong belief in the presence of evil, particularly the devil's influence on the material world. These beliefs created a fertile ground for suspicion and fear to take root. For the Puritans, life was a constant battle between good and evil, and they believed that Satan and his agents were ever present, seeking to corrupt the faithful. At the time, Salem was also a community under considerable stress. Political uncertainty, land disputes, conflicts with Native American tribes, and the pressures of a harsh, unforgiving environment compounded the unease. Disease, poor harvests, and a sense of isolation from larger, more established colonies created a tense atmosphere where people were quick to blame misfortune on supernatural causes. The villagers of Salem felt they were under siege, not just physically, but spiritually, and they increasingly turned their anxieties inward, seeking explanations for their hardships within the fabric of their own community. The hysteria that overtook Salem began in early 1692, when a group of young girls in the village started to exhibit strange behaviors. They convulsed, screamed, and contorted their bodies, claiming they were being tormented by invisible forces. The local doctor, unable to find any physical cause, declared that the girls were under the influence of witchcraft. This diagnosis set off a chain reaction of fear and accusation that spiraled out of control. The girls, encouraged by the attention they received and likely influenced by the existing fear of witches, began naming others in the community as their tormentors. These accusations spread like wildfire. As the accusations grew, the legal system, based on Puritan religious doctrine, moved quickly to investigate and prosecute those accused. The trials that followed were deeply flawed. The spectral evidence, testimony that the spirit of the accused had attacked or appeared to the accuser, was considered legitimate, despite its deeply subjective and completely unverifiable nature. This, combined with confessions extracted under pressure or from those seeking to save themselves, ensured that many innocent people were caught in the web of suspicion. Neighbors turned on neighbors, family members betrayed each other, and old grudges were settled under the guise of rooting out witchcraft. Religion played a pivotal role in the Salem Witch Trials. The Puritan ministers who wielded significant influence in both the religious and civil affairs of the colony often saw the trials as a necessary purification of the community. To them, the devil's influence superstition or zealotry. The Salem Witch Trials also speak to the need for empathy and critical thinking. It's all too easy to fall into the trap of scapegoating others, particularly in times of stress and uncertainty. But Salem teaches us the cost of such actions. We need to be vigilant against the forces that seek to divide us, and we need to resist the temptation to blame others for our misfortunes without clear evidence. It's crucial that we approach conflict and uncertainty with a sense of compassion and reason rather than allowing fear to dictate our actions. In reflecting on the Salem Witch Trials,